started. So in a funny twist of events, we don't have clickers today because the set that they gave me doesn't connect to computers, so I apologize about that. Yeah, so we're just going to do all the voting by hand today. So I thank you all in advance for your cooperation. Also, just a reminder, we're in a pretty small room, so please remember to project your voice.
For the video camera, since we don't have mics.
Oh yeah, we don't have, yeah, as you just said. Please try to project your voice and limit side conversation just so that everyone can hear what's going on, and we can make this the most accessible space as possible. Thank you all. All right, we will begin with roll call. AC Welch.
Here.
President Becker. Viva Murphy. VPSA Tomu. Treasurer Ercolani. A.T. Weber. Here. Services Coordinator Timutamwa.
Here.
Contra Chair Christensen. DOC Gumijala. Here. Senator Stallings.
I'm filling in that.
Senator Christian. Here. Senator Dodimi.
Here.
Senator De Vega. Here. Senator Nelson.
Here.
Senator Kongikyo.
Here.
Senator Jones.
Here.
Senator Mendel.
Here.
Senator Zernig. Here. Senator Nieto.
Here.
Senator Goldhammer.
Here.
Senator McDowell.
Here.
Senator Teaser. Here. Senator Piero Santa.
Here.
Senator Collinger. Here. Senator Adeling.
Aye.
Senator Adhikari. Here. Senator Goswami.
Here.
Reform Committee Chair Monteforte.
Here.
T.A. Gould.
Here.
ACES Co-Director Coleman. ACES Sustained DeRoche. ACES Outreach Coordinator Preston. Green Fund Co-Chair Snodgrass.
Here.
ISO Delegate No.
Here.
QPOC Delegate Blackstone.
Here.
SHIP Delegate Cheslak. Stonewall Resource Center Delegate Haddock.
Here.
Okay, thank you all. Now we will have to vote on the approval of the minutes from the last Student Senate. Ooh, all right, so we're gonna have to do this all by hand. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Pardon? Is there an inquiry? No? Okay.
Joshua, Amanda.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? Cool, so that passes. Now we can move on to public comments, announcements, or additional events. Senator Collinger, I see you have one.
Yeah. Hi you guys. So for my senator project, I'm making a poster, kind of like a thank you to dining hall services. So I feel like a lot of the times the staff is often underappreciated and they do a lot for the campus. So I was hoping that senators could volunteer their time. I have Dylan so graciously put a link in the minutes right here to the certain documents. So if you guys could please volunteer just like maybe an hour of your time, you can probably get paid, and I'll have the poster out and you just be tabling outside of the atrium just to get people to sign and just like write some nice things, and eventually we'll give the poster during a meeting that the staff will have later in the year. So yeah, please let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like to help make a poster. What? Also, yeah, if anyone is like really creative, sorry I'm going on tangents here, but I would love the creative expertise of like these wonderful Grinnellians. So thank you.
Thank you. Green Fund Committee Co-Chair Snodgrass.
Yes, so a Green Fund project that we've been working on that was just implemented is to get black recycling in the dorms. So they're in 4 different dorms, and then they're like big green bins and there's a hole in the top. So the main thing is just to try and like limit contamination so that we can try to expand the project in the future. And also that anything that's put in there doesn't have any liquid left in it, because the FM workers are going to have to dump it from that container into a truck, and so we just don't want them getting like sprayed with beer and whatnot. Yeah, so just please let your constituents know that they can now recycle glass.
Thank you.
Point of order, could you list the dorms that they
Yes, it's in the agenda, but it's the Kershaw recycling room. Okay.
But just one.
Okay, is that all good? Senator Abeling?
Hello, I have an event to announce. So for 2014 and 2017, there was this really cool lecture series in Lyles called Pub Talks, where a student group would get professors professor there to talk for like 20 to 30 minutes about something interesting related to that professor's specialty. And this was just an opportunity for students to talk to professors about their research outside of the structured environment, kind of normalizing academic discourse without sticking everything inside a classroom. So I want to bring this back. I have Professor Sharon Winsett scheduled to talk about high-risk activism and building multiracial coalitions in dangerous areas and how she's seen that happen and how she thinks that's going to affect the future of the United States and other countries on Tuesday. This week, I think that's the 9th at 8 to 9 p.m. in Lila's Pub, and we're going to have healthy snacks. Please come through. I'm going to stick posters everywhere as soon as I get them printed.
Thank you. Services Coordinator Totomo.
So finally happening, if you guys remember, the Civic Engagement Committee is happening Thursday at 4 p.m. in 225. I'll send out an email to remind you, please remember it's really cool. We're going to be discussing things like what you can and cannot do as a group that's like trying to get people civically engaged, especially with elections coming up. Also, Barbara Church said she wants input on the student handbook when it comes to what we can and can't do. For example, candidates coming to campus during class time, stuff like that. So everybody's invited. Please come, 4 p.m., 225.
Thank you. Senator Jones.
The Vice President for Strategic Initiatives and Programs, I think, from Associated Colleges in the Midwest. Pretty sure it's going to be campus this Wednesday. And he mentioned that he might want to get his group of students together to hear about programs that Grinnell is doing, like the exhibition programs on stuff like that. And I don't really have any details other than that, but if you are interested or want to be kept in the loop about perhaps meeting with him Wednesday, just let me know.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comments or announcements? See, we have an event.
Yeah, and then another thing that we've been working on is we're having like it's called Treasure Trade, but it's like a swap event, but not just for clothes, for basically any sort of item or food if it's unopened. And we just don't want anything that's broken or unusable, and it's from 11 to 1 in the Laurel Beach this Saturday. And we were kind of envisioning it like you would drop things off at 11 and then move things up in the second hour, but we understand it won't work for everyone's schedule, so it's pretty flexible.
Thank you. All right. Seeing that there are no further, I'm sorry, Concert Chairperson.
It's okay. We have another concert this Saturday. It's kinda, I believe it's pronounced, I hope it's pronounced, with Victor and Family Reunion. It's gonna be really fun, so you should come. Oh, and there's also Europe of Gardner on Friday.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments, announcements, or additional events? Seeing none, we can now move on to the fourth agenda item, which is the confirmation of Erica Satchel as the ACE chair for the remainder of the academic year. It says here that Deepa Murphy is presenting this, but seeing that he is not here, maybe say someone will be filling in.
So I hope you guys read the rationale that we sent out. We would like to confirm Erica Satchel for the remaining of the semester as ACE coordinator. Erica has shown extenuous commitment to SGA in the past, and not only that, but served as ACE's chair. Not only that, Erica has served as a senator in the past. And throughout this process, we sent out an application email and we sent out a reminder email, and there were only 3 applicants, and we saw that Erica was the most committed / the most qualified for the position, and we're asking the Senate today to confirm this candidate. I don't know what you want to say.
Okay, so we're going to do this how we usually do, where the candidate can have a chance to speak and receive questions from the Senate, and then once that's done, we will have a question and answer period with the candidate outside of the room. So if anyone has any questions for the ACE-elect Satchel, please raise them now. So sorry.
So I've heard a lot of concern from students about ACE events over the rest of the semester, considering that things have been not incredibly stable up to this point. What's your plan to get everything back on track fast?
Well, from what I know, like, majority of the events for the rest of the year have been planned already, so we'll just be reaching out to other, like, the people who are going to host the event and making sure that they have, like, what they need to host and, like, if they have a plan to do so. So, it's just like having effective communication with people who are already assigned to host events.
Thank you. Services coordination to someone? No? All right, thank you. Do we have any further questions for the candidate while she is still in the room? Seeing none, I ask that you step up and we will have a question and answer period and then we'll vote on the information. Thank you. Okay, are there any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this agreement? Seeing none, we can move right on with confirming. I'm sorry that there are no clickers for this, it makes it a bit awkward, but do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I was thinking about the clickers.
Nah, sorry. Not tonight. Faulty set. We're gonna do this by hand. You guys can close your eyes if you want to. I'm gonna keep mine open though because I need to count. Actually, yeah, everyone close your eyes.
Well, I mean, voting records are also publicly available.
Oh my god. Never mind, y'all don't have to close your eyes. Okay. Let's get into this. So all those in favor of this confirmation, please raise your hands nice and high.
Are you doing it, Joe?
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you got? I got these here.
I got 20.
That's.
That is not possible, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I got 18 this month. My bad. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, that passes. Congratulations, that confirmation passes. So now we will move on to the ACE budgets, which I believe are led by A.T. Weber.
For some reason for Mike, I don't know what that's about.
Okay, wait, just a minute.
Just a quick question, how do you access the voting records? Like how if like a constituent wants to see what the senators are voting for, how do they do that?
I believe they're in the minutes, right?
And the exit. Which should be every week. You should all read every week if you're something.
Okay, Abby, could you pull up, sorry, I was having a hard time accessing this document, but I sent, it's the
This?
budget document. It just says, yes, it is very small, I'm sorry. Okay. So, we actually had more than 2 budgets, but the other 2 were not submitted on time, and so were not considered. Although we did talk over them, so that when they come back next week, they'll be able to be considered seriously. So, we had an ISO cultural evening, they requested $247, we gave them $247 for video recording, whatnot. The Grinnell, which we'll be voting on this evening, requested $3,495.30, and we upped them by $9 in order for them to purchase more water, because I know that was a problem last year. So we wanted to make sure that they could get more water, and it wasn't a significant cost. So yeah, those were our 2 budgets that we discussed in committee.
Okay,
talk budget generally. So if you submit a budget and then it gets tabled because you set it for a date too far in advance, but when you're submitting it for next week, does it then have to be 2 weeks in advance from next weekend or this weekend?
Okay, so the way that we're doing this from here on out is if it is not submitted 2 weeks in advance of the event that is happening, the event either needs to be pushed back or that event will not be funded. So, for instance, one of the budgets that was submitted was for the SHIC teach-in. That was supposed to happen this weekend. Given that that was not 2 weeks in advance, we asked them to push it back a week, and we will consider it next week. That's only a week in between. However, we need 2 weeks in general from the submission of the first version of the budget
Okay.
to really be able to think about it.
Senator Nelson?
Could we, like, I don't need to be disrespectful, but could we get like a little bit of like some reasoning for why that? Because I did hear like some kind of negative or like just uncertain things about why that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason that we're doing that is because we, I mean, there's 2 reasons. The first reason is that whenever we order things on Amazon, it's really hard if we only have a week to make sure that all those things are able to be purchased. So generally, this is just like a thing in general. If you're submitting a budget where you think you're gonna have to like order stuff, submit it even earlier than 2 weeks in advance, please. The other reason is because like it might be kind of hard to tell because like no one's in the office with Quinn and I, but like when things are submitted a week in advance, we really have to scramble to get that like done funding wise. And that's just like very stressful for the two of us, especially if the budget that's submitted is not adequate. So we want everyone's events to get funded. We want people to be able to submit budgets that like get through committee and that we're able to take care of. But we really require 2 weeks for that.
Can there be a distinction in the rule maybe between budgets that require you to order things and where the onus just puts on the budgets?
That distinction could be made. However, that would be a distinction from even more than 2 weeks. The things that are like I'm not going to ask people to submit things more than 2 weeks in advance, even though like it does make ordering easier. But 2 weeks, just based on like how much Quinn and I really had to kind of like run around with our heads cut off last semester to get things done. 2 weeks is really the minimum for us to like do things in a way that is healthy for everyone involved in the process.
I have a clarifying question, like your question. Were you saying if we could make a distinction between like budgets where we use funding directly from SGA and budgets where we get reimbursed?
Yeah, so like budgets where you gave me the approval to buy something, I go and buy it, and then I later come back to you and submit the receipt.
Okay. Now I have a comment. I think we get into really weird territory there of who has the means to be able to buy things up front, and then so who gets to skirt that rule because they have the money to buy it up front and then get reimbursed later. And I just make the comment that I would strongly avoid doing that if possible.
Thank you.
When we have breaks, that's the only thing, like for example, spring break is like 2 weeks, and so you have to plan the event and set a date for like before spring break.
Yes, and we spoke to several people about spring break. Spring break was an exception. We didn't require, like for events that were happening the weekend after spring break, we didn't require those 2 weeks in advance, understanding that that would just have been impossible. However, now that we've had, this is for events that are 2 weeks out from spring break, this is when the rules really go into effect. If you, for events this weekend, you should have come to committee on the 31st. And so, I understand it's a learning curve. I'm not trying to, be, rude about it, but also, these are policies that, I care a lot about, I think are really important to anyone who's going to be in the treasurer's office now or later. And I just, really want to see that they're effective.
You can say something?
I think that there should be some collaboration with maybe DOC and aides and maybe services to get the word out to the student body, make sure they know all the set of rules, and just to make sure that they're informed, so they don't know no questions. It's the best way to get
Assistant, I just forgot her whole name, Assistant Treasurer Weber's work and with the money workshop and trying to get clear policies. I think, like, especially dealing with money and having to be like, no, we're not gonna give you money is rough, but it also is a good opportunity for us to have clear policies, which makes for better accountability in how we're spending our money and for better events too, in the long term, if we're getting into a system of action planning, getting things done. Last for Amanda.
All right, so we do have some budgets that need to be approved. I just have a question, free college for all, why is it awaiting confirmation?
Well, so they're adding more funding. We funded them last week, but some things happened, and it means that they have to expand the budget. And so we wanted to give an update on that piece as well.
Okay.
Is this what you want, Amanda?
Well, that's SPC services, okay,
I
so,
sent you to the Grinnellian and just the budget document, yeah.
okay, I was getting confused because I don't see any. What's going on in this room? I don't see any ACE in the document
That's what I just had,
Okay.
pull up on the screen.
Okay, cool, my apologies. So we do have to vote on the Grinnellian. So who will be presenting these budgets?
Oh, me, yeah, sorry. So, wait, no, not me, where's Sokol? Or Ian? Ooh, okay,
Okay, so seeing that, do you want to reach out to them?
Yeah,
Encourage them to get here right now?
I'm going to call.
Okay, thank you. Because we'll be there in 5 minutes. And if they do not arrive, then we will move on. But for now, we will temporarily move on with the SPC and services budgets, if you're okay with that. Thank you.
We had a lot of budgets this week, mainly because, again, the policies have finally come in place. So we had a lot of people who submitted budgets late this week, which was great. They were really generous about it. I was really happy that they were taking it positively. We had one services budget. If you scroll down, this was probably our biggest week in terms of uptick. It's the closest we've ever come to the pre-allocation. I am slightly worried that we are going to overspend if we keep going like this, but it's not a bad thing. Once more, we're underspending the services budget by quite a bit, so it won't be that difficult to shift funds around. If you have any questions about the individual budgets other than the free college for all and the extra, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer them now or later.
Do we have any questions? Senator Goldhammer?
Yeah, so is it an issue if we overspend by, I don't know like a number, but, because I know at the start of this semester we talked about having a huge surplus, and wanting to make the surplus smaller, so is that something that you're taking into account too?
Amanda deals with the budget, so she can probably tell you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Quinn deals with the money more, but he is not here. So I will speak to the budget to the best of my ability, and hopefully I don't just really screw things up.
Okay.
If you want more clarification later, I would go to Quinn. But generally, I think the idea is that it is not the worst thing if we overspend. We knew that was there's a good chance of that happening because we are encouraging more spending. However, I know at this point that Quinn and I are both we both want to do something really meaningful with this rollover money that we have, because this is the only time we're going to have it. So I think we can kind of take money out of that, but we prefer that money is able to go to a project that is big and really benefits the entire student body in a big way.
Do you have any ideas what that project might be?
No, and we are open to ideas. We also don't want people to take it personally if we say no to ideas, which is why we haven't been advertising it as much right now.
Yeah.
I think we're currently thinking of things like memory that can really that benefit a lot of people in a broader way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, if this is something that you're interested in, like, again, stop by my office hours, Quinn's office hours, we always like are happy to talk about it. Maybe not Quinn's office hours this week, he might not be in the office very much, I will be though. So, yeah, this is always something I'm like, happy to talk about more, like,
Yeah.
individually, but, yeah, this is like a really, it's just like a big thing, you know, that we're trying to make sure that we're doing something meaningful with it.
Thank you. All right, do we have any more comments or questions on the budgets that we're not voting on? Because we do have two SBC services ones that we need to vote on.
If you
Okay.
scroll down a little, there's the services. It was just one budget, it was a community meal budget, by Alexander. And like I said, we are obviously underspending our services budget, so.
Okay, seeing no further comments or questions, we can now move on to the free college for all budget. That is presented by, go ahead.
And Naomi, she ran through it, So I spoke last week about a People's Action Annual Convention that we're trying to send our board membership to, as an opportunity to like build relationships and go through skills and campaign workshops. And so in the interim period this past week, we've had a couple of problems come up that are requiring us to request additional funding for this. So essentially, we did a combination of member fundraising and the budget approved last week. We purchased 2 hotel rooms and 2 flights for $350 each, and we have $300 remaining from that amount. But the problem that's come up is People's Action, the organization that's hosting it and we're a member of, had originally agreed to subsidize our flights by $100 each. And in previous years, this was done on an upfront basis, working with this, and then $100 would come off the flight when you purchased it. But this year it's working on a reimbursement process we found out, so it's required to like buy flights at cost, adding $100 to each of our flight costs. The other additional funding that came up was the fifth core member of our organization was able to attend, and we wanted to request that so they could attend as well.
Okay, thank you. So the budget is on the screen. Does anyone have any questions? Senator Blair?
Yeah, so I have 2 questions right now. So the $1,000, is that, so like you'll need another 100 for the subsidy that you're not getting, correct? Because if you have a 5th member going, so you need 500 for that?
Yes.
That's just including the $1,000.
Sorry.
So like, if you need $400 for 4 flights, I'm assuming if the person's going, you're gonna need another 100. And is that including the 1,000 or including the like?
Yeah, it's included in this, I think it's $855, because we have $300 remaining from the last budget, and flights have gone up a little bit, so it's like $285 for each of these flights, plus the $300 for each of them.
So, is the $400 like a loan then? Like, will you get the money? Because I just don't understand, like, so you're gonna get the $400 off eventually, or no, is that not?
Yeah, we'll be eventually getting $500 in reimbursements for subsidies. If there's any process where we can return that money to SBA, we're more than happy to, but we have to like apply to cost.
Yeah.
That's why this came up.
Okay, do you have any plan to do that?
AC whoever is well.
Okay, so it will be very difficult for us to get reimbursed by another organization. I honestly don't, like I was talking to Quinn about it,
Yeah.
the only time we've ever gotten money from an outside organization was in a restricted gift, which was like very difficult to deal with, because it would go, like, it goes through college through their donations, and then we have to like access it. It's a whole thing. I don't really know how like a reimbursement to SGA would work. Quinn and I are not sure if it would. Frankly, I'm not really considering that as an option right now. That, I'm not saying that to like affect anything, but like, the reimbursement is not a factor in this right now. Like, it would be, I think, a very difficult process.
Senator Jones?
So then, when the 5 students get the $100 it feels weird to have in my pocket $500, so can this be conditional on like reinvesting those $500 into a free college for all programming?
Yes, this was part of the reason, like, about my concern about the reimbursement process in general. Yeah, I would ask that, like, for this, that, like, no reimbursement happen, if that's even possible with the organization. I don't know if they, like, need to reimburse.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, cool, then, yeah, that's just a kind of a messy process, given the way that, like, our accounting is, so yeah, no reimbursement.
Yeah, that just makes no sense to me. I mean, like, I would rather, like, obviously this isn't ideal, but I would rather than just have an additional $500 than not, because if it's $500, I mean, something you can do, I don't know, like, I just, like.
Based on my understanding, this would pass on the condition that the $500 is reimbursed back into the organization, not into the individuals involved in the organization.
Right, yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, but if whoever, like, I might be wrong, I might just misunderstood you said, you just ask for them not to be, like, given the $500.
Yeah, sorry, I should clarify, no reimbursement to individuals, like, yeah, because, like, yeah.
Like on the flights or to the people, like, in the,
We are buying the flights.
yeah,
with the credit
I
card.
understand.
So, yeah,
So,
like,
Yeah, also I can say that if we get these reimbursements, none of them would be going to individual members, they would just go to the organization.
okay, yeah.
so,
Further,
no, it's okay.
we can come back.
Yeah.
You felt like bullet?
Well, this was just gonna be a response to that too, where like, Google Athens is a non-profit, or, like, I'm guessing that like the money that they're not then going to be using to subsidize the flights is going to be used for program free college for all programs, and like that's what that reimbursement is going to look like, it's just gonna be redistribution within the organization, which I think is a nice way to have that happen and have the organization decide how they want to decide on the program.
Yeah, I would just like clarity then on what the conditions of this question are before we vote. On whether Grinnell's chapter of free college for all will be reimbursed $500, or if we will not accept the reimbursement and let people's actions keep it. That's important. Would you like to clarify something?
I'd say both options are possible if it affects like the passing of the budget either way. The preference for us as an organization would be like we get the subsidies and we would go to our local chapter and then we would use it to continue like our own work and then we'd be happy to like present what that work is.
Yeah, I guess I'm just confused. I'm making this clear to the room. I don't know. So I just, the whole like not wanting the $500 to go to the chapter at least just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, like,
Just a reminder that this is a discussion, so people feel free to pitch in, ask questions, like feel free to ask them.
I just a question for whoever. So, what's your ideal scenario here? I'm just confused. Like, can you just explain it to me again? I'm sorry.
I don't really have an ideal scenario here. My main concern was that like individuals in the group would be receiving $100 each. I understand now that is not the case. I had no idea how this reimbursement was going to work. I also because my main concern is that like SGA would have a very hard time accessing the money that was sent to us.
Yeah.
And like obviously I don't want like individuals to be receiving $100.
Yeah.
So like I don't have an ideal situation here. I just just not either of those two things.
Yeah. Would the $500 just go back on a credit card that was purchased? Like we can purchase it? That would make the most sense. I don't know how it works.
Well, the reimbursement process works through Google's action, and you submit a subsidy request, and then you can tell them where to send the check to. So if we wanted it to be our local organization, we would just put that, and it would, we have an organizational, like, it's like an act to do, it's a funding tool, and we would just go into that if we wanted that.
Could you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Can I ask for just a final final statement as to what this budget consists of, what the reimbursement process may look like as we've been discussing, and just to have that completely stated so that everyone's on the same page as to what this conditional funding amounts to.
Yes. So this budget is the remaining flight cost to send 5 of the members of Free College for all Grinnell to the annual convention in DC at the end of this month. The hotel rooms and 2 flights have already been paid for, so this would just be that additional cost. And the conditional funding we talked about right now is we would submit the subsidy reimbursement requests, and then that money would just go into our organization's ActBlue account and not to any individual members.
Okay. Commissioner, do you have any further comments or questions regarding this budget, services coordination to the total?
If anyone's worried, so what we're doing now is, and we learned this from Connecting Grinnellians, is if people ask for a certain amount of money, about like $1,000, we have them do a little presentation at the end. So they graciously have allowed to come and just give us a little snapshot. It won't take too long. Like, this is a conference, this is what's happened, and it's something we're putting in place at least in SPC and services.
Okay. Are there any further things to add? Seeing none, Naomi, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we vote?
No.
All right, so do we have a total amount for both budget?
Yeah, it's right there. I mean, this is.
What's the Joshua, what is the total amount of funding that we're voting on?
So we've already approved 1,000. We're adding another 855 to that 1,000. Well, we're voting on the 855. The 1,000's already theirs. We've already allocated it.
Just a point of information. Why is like a number less than $1,000 being brought to the Senate to vote on?
Because it's being added to a budget
Okay.
that's over $1,000, that is $1,000.
Alright,
So the total amount of the budget for this given like event is gonna be over $1,000.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Do you have any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna vote on this, and this is for a budget addition of $855 to Free College for All. All those in favor, please raise your hands nice and high. All those opposed? Is that opposition? Sorry, okay. All those abstaining? Okay, thank you. That budget passes. So thank you all for your engagement with that. Congratulations. We will now move on to the budget of Expo Makeup. So can the presenter of that budget, please?
Okay, so we have an EXO class, Makeup 101, and so we're teaching it every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:30 to 5:30, and we have about 16 students, and usually more people come. We invite other students to come and bring their own makeup if possible, if they want to learn. And me and Errol are teaching it. So we are requesting the makeup that we promised students if they came to the class. Since the class is a beginner's class, a lot of the students don't know anything about makeup at all, so we'll be providing them with most if not all the materials. And additionally, like Raven did send out the email saying that we were going to provide materials for the students in our class. And so in our class, we actually set it up so we don't have to buy as much materials as we would need. So we have groups of 2 who rotate every two to three classes. And so each group shares a certain amount of makeup, they share a mirror, but each person themselves, due to sanitary reasons, has a set of brushes. And we will be using like disposable spoolies and like eyeliner tips or whatever goes near the eyes and near the face will be disposable and or particular to the person. The makeup that we will be buying will all be donated to the drag closet in SRC, and we're planning on making like little like makeup kits to try and like set up a system so that we could check out makeup, and whenever they need it, they will just want to play with it and explore it, gender bend, or especially with drag show coming up and drag shows in coming years, it'll be extremely popular when people want to check those makeup kits out. And we also presented our PowerPoint, so it's a lot, as you can see on the budget. I pulled it up, and it's kind of hard to explain everything, so we sort of like set up a PowerPoint to try and simplify it a little bit.
So the reason why I want to do this is just, part of what Brandy said is just to have the class in general is for self-expression and to like have the idea like that makeup is not that hard. It's just about having fun, about doing something for yourself, not for looks or anything. And I think it's a good way to take yourself back from the high stress that Grinnell has. Just take like an hour out of your day to do some makeup, have some fun, talk with people, have learn a new skill. And also Raven suggested that was like, oh, you should try and do a great class, and we asked around before we signed up to do Exco. A lot of people seemed very interested in learning how to do makeup, and so that was also a factor into why we wanted to do this class. Also, it's just makeup is fun. When you have a good look, you get it all down, and you put in all this work to learn, and you finally get a look that you love or enjoy. That's very fulfilling. Next slide. So this is our syllabus. We already had the first week of class. We just went over color theory, and we got the budget that we got approved for the first week. We taught the students how to do smoky eye, which we have pictures at the end of the presentation to show how the class went. But throughout the weeks, we're going to continue to teach different eye looks like nude eye and cut creases, teach contour, highlight, blush. Yeah, and we have a little quiz. It's not a real quiz, but it's just we're gonna pick random looks out of a hat, and we're gonna do different looks with it. And so it'll be just a fun, little kiki, little party. Next slide. So this is the type of makeup we are buying. We bought drugstore brands that are reputable because we don't want to buy from anonymous sources where makeup can be have weird chemicals and things that can damage. So we are buying from reputable brands like NYX, Maybelline, Kiss, ColourPop, Nail Aid. These are also because they're drugstore brands. They have quality, but also cheap. So we don't want to spend all cents money. That's not the goal. Next, we went over the precautions. Randy went over the precautions, but just we're buying palettes for each group, and buying from reputable brands, using disposable mascara, lip, and eyeliner application, and different brush sets for your students for sanitary reasons to prevent the spreading of diseases. Pink eye is very common if you're sharing eye makeup with others, and it's really disgusting, and we do not want to be responsible for that, obviously. So that's why it costs so much to make sure everything is sanitary and safe. Next slide. And these are just some pictures. But yeah, so that's our budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this budget? President-elect Logan.
First I would say I fully support funding this. I think that makeup, it's not frivolous. For me, it's the only artistic outlet that I have, because otherwise I'm creatively challenged. I do want to say, I think you say that you told students that were signing up for the class that makeup would be provided. I would avoid that as a practice in general, telling students anything before it gets approved by the proper funding source. But that's
the rest of the makeup would go towards the dry closet, but I know that sometimes makeup expires, so could you talk in that sense of like sanitary, and like if that's okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I know that makeup does expire, so in regards to that, I guess we just throw it away as it does expire in dry closet. I wouldn't,
It takes a while.
it takes a long time, like,
Yeah, it'll last.
I never really like thrown away makeup because it expires, to be honest. It's usually all used up by then, so.
Thank you. Senator Zerme. Yeah, I was just wondering if somebody, because I know there are a few leaders who talk in here who can talk about the current state of the drag closet, and as someone who's been backstage at drag before, I know that it's kind of hectic and there's not a lot of options, and especially like foundations of multiple colors and things like that. So if Errol or Tucker could speak to the current state of the drag makeup closet. Would anyone like to speak to that?
I'll speak to it, sure. And we can also give input. I mean, it's like pretty fair because the fact that all our stuff was like stolen or misplaced, I guess, is a more accurate term. So like, yeah, definitely like this donation piece were helpful. And like since we started from scratch at the beginning of this year, like it'll be definitely easy for us to organize whatever we're receiving. That would be like an episode as much.
And clarification on like the stolen, so misplaced items. There was construction in SRC, and so like we had makeup in the trans and drag closet, and then construction happened, and then we get back and there's no. So like that's just a separate issue, just for clarification. But yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate your presentation. This is something that like Joshua and I in particular have been talking a lot about. Like it's really important, I think, especially when requesting like large budgets to be able to like demonstrate why it's important. And I think you did a really, really wonderful job. I'm really impressed. So I just like want to put that out there. I think that like I love when people role model like really good, like responsible behaviors. So wait up.
Mine was just about like length and expiry of makeup. Technically, like things like mascara go out date like 3 to 6 months after opening. We should like replace them like pretty often. So just to let you know.
Forgive Alps the mascara that we are using just because people probably have used it from our class. We don't want to. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Vega.
I would just like thank you for your presentation. It was really good. I just want to ask, have you considered, I don't know if this is necessary, but maybe like, I know Sephora, they have or some makeup artists use the spray disinfectant for palette and whatnot. So maybe you might, if you want to reuse, you might want to think about, and maybe for a next budget, it doesn't have to be in this one, so you can get it approved soon, but you might want to consider putting that in there.
Thank you.
Senator Golden.
Just a logistical thing, I can see all of your name tags, there's just like an order of when they're raised, so I'm not trying to ignore anyone or stuff like that, or see everything, but just a reminder in case anyone was confused about that. Do we have any further questions regarding this budget? Senator Jones?
What budget does this come out of? Because it's the next.
Services for energy reduced.
It's SPC.
Sure, just a quick point of ignorance from my part. What's the reason on the leftover makeup going to drag closet as opposed to SGA's inventory?
AC voter. So normally I would say to go in the inventory, but also the inventory is like a little Clark fit. And I don't claim to be like a makeup expert, but also like I feel like there are certain things I feel like better to be left in a space that is designated for those things rather than like in this like I love our inventory and I'm really excited to get it going, but it's also just kind of like a kind of humid little dark space, so like, I'm thinking maybe makeup in there is the best idea. But everything else, yes.
Thank you. Anything else? Do the presenters of this budget have anything left to add?
I actually forgot to tell where it was, so I was gonna say that's in Yonker Lounge, for anyone, in case y'all wanna go.
Tuesdays, Thursdays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're also, sorry. We're also considering filming the classes as well, because there's a suggestion from whoever that people really do like watching makeup videos, so, and if we could like have that source out for everyone, that would be great too, so. We're considering doing it, we don't know if we will yet, but a good suggestion.
Thank you. Seeing that there's nothing further to add, we will now need to vote on this budget, and it is a budget of $1,013 for the XCOM makeup class. So again, we're doing this by hand. All those in favor of approving this budget? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, thank you, that budget passes. So now that we have a presenter for the base budget, we're gonna jump right back to that. So could you please get ready to go? Thank you. All right, let's go. This is for Santa.
The Grinnellian, I'm repping freesound. So we do one concert each semester. This is our spring concert. It's like this huge student music festival. There will be sun, bouncy castles, professional sound people, lots of food and fun. It's on May 4th, and it's going to be from 3 to 8 p.m. That's when we book Cat Tracks. That's like the big $2,500 expenditure. Cat Tracks is a professional sound company. They set up for concerts, etc. Based in Des Moines. We've been working with them for at least the past 3 years. I think we've been working with them for longer than that. And they just do a really good job. It's a really good opportunity for student musicians on campus. It's one of the only opportunities, apart from if they play a garden, to be able to play in an environment where it's like professional sound. And that's kind of the point of the Grinnellian. Everything else is just like food. And we are $250 less under budget than last year. That's mostly because last year we were working with the Grill Club and some other student organizations who were making food, and that kind of drove costs up. Yep.
Thank you. So, what do you need?
Do you add any vegan options?
Yeah, so
And
the
gluten-free?
SGA standard order, if I'm not wrong, for Pizza Ranch has all of those. I think it has gluten-free and vegan options.
It is confirmed to have gluten-free and vegan options.
Yes.
Such as,
Just, you don't always want to eat, like, pizza. Like, I don't know, if you have other options, but
Okay, so I think egg rolls aren't
they're
vegan
not
or
vegan.
gluten-free.
Like tofu. Yeah, crispy fried tofu
From Chomps?
Chomps, if that's how you're ordering.
Okay. Yeah, we can add that.
Sorry.
I can actually look that up.
I'm not about to hit y'all with that annoying ass gavel, but I have to because let's keep, you already know what I'm gonna say, let's keep this one person at a time, please, just so everyone can listen.
Okay, so their party order has a tofu with vegetables, that's $45.95. You can get that. I can add that. Yeah, that sounds good.
VP, President-elect Williams.
From Senator Donahue's comment, I think that, like, it sounds like the amount of food is good, but maybe we should substitute.
Yeah, so we have 2 orange chickens, I'll move one.
Yeah, so just make, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can do like, I'm sorry.
Or-
You can do like half veggie rolls, half egg rolls, like.
Yeah, so I guess the options are I can get rid of like 2 egg rolls and then get 1 tofu thing, or I can get rid of 1 orange chicken and sub that in for tofu. I don't know if people are feeling, but I can do either of those. And it comes with
Senator Jones.
It's my preference to remove the chicken and add a tofu thing, so I'm gonna make a motion to remove 1 quantity of orange chicken and add some replacement of the tofu fried rice.
Senator Grinnell.
I'm second.
Pardon? What, wait, Senator Zerni.
Is the tofu fried rice gluten-free?
Sometimes you speak to that?
So it's not tofu fried rice, it's just tofu with vegetables. So I'm gonna guess that the answer is yes.
We have, just from working in dining services, we have people here with severe celiac and gluten allergies. And I'm with Sophie that it sucks that people who are gluten-free or vegan, or I even know one gluten-free vegan, get really kind of not that good pizza ranch, gluten-free pizza at everything. And so I would be in favor of, since we're 250 less than last year, I would support adding money to actually
I would suggest, again, I assume that this amount of food has been done with a projected attendance number, and regardless of what their dietary needs are. But I do agree that whatever we change should be something as a, food option for people who are gluten-free and vegan. So I'd be willing to, or I think it might be a good idea to consider just passing this budget, with a contingent, good faith effort, not good faith, actual effort that the people putting this event on after this, make sure that the crispy tofu from Chong's is also gluten-free, and if it's not, find another alternative. I just don't know if we're gonna be able to get the research done for the best gluten-free and vegan food option right now. That's my suggestion.
I would just like to Senator Zernick, sorry, said, I think since it is $250 less, I feel like there could be room in the budget to add a little bit more to make sure that everyone is getting what they need, / there's enough food for everyone. How does this compare to the period that you guys had last year? Because I know last year there was a lot.
Okay, so last year I think we had 38 or something pizza. So we added a bunch of pizza, and we also added Chong's, and the only offset to that in last year's option was the Grill Club, which they did a bunch of patties and stuff, but that's just more expensive because they needed the grill and they needed gas for the grill, and it just drove costs up. And I don't think they're even around this year, so we just made that switch, keeping the numbers in mind pretty much the same. Also, if we just switch the orange chicken for the tofu and vegetables, the difference would be $7, and so we'd be at 3504.3 minus 7, which is 3497, if y'all want to prove that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Grill Club thing, because I'm pretty sure I was on to June and he said Ian asked him. So
Okay. Well, Ian presented the budget at ACE, so yeah, so maybe there's a communication that got resolved or on his own thing.
Yeah, I think it is important since last year students did have a variety of options to choose from, that we continue that.
I also think that our projected attendance and projected foodie is gonna change, because this just giving gluten-free and vegan options is not going to make less people want to eat the orange chicken. Does that make sense? Like, those aren't mutually exclusive. If anything, it's just gonna it's probably just gonna increase the number of people eating food rather than change it what they're eating. Because my guess is that gluten-free vegan people just generally don't eat a lot at these events. And so I think that we should, again, I'm gonna say that I'm in favor of adding meat.
You, Senator Nelson?
I think what I was gonna say was just gonna get covered, just that senators who are really concerned with the quality of gluten-free vegan food, I would urge like maybe some suggestions, because I'm hearing a lot of like, oh, we should do that, but then you just made a suggestion to add more, so I would second that suggestion to add more on top.
Thank you. Refund coaches Snowgrass?
Yeah, well, I actually haven't had the vegan pizza from Pizza, but it seems like people don't like it very much, so I was wondering if it would be possible to change the SJ order to add more vegan options that aren't pizza, or if that's not better.
Like this.
Yeah, I think we should Wallet. Are you recommending we just change like what the standard SGA order is? Or like is this specific to this event?
No, just for this event.
So saying that we should have, like we just don't even need to worry about doing gluten-free vegan.
Or maybe getting
Gluten-free vegan for kids.
Please, one person, guys.
So are you saying that I guess I would just like clarity on
Yeah, I was just saying to get like less of the vegan pizza in addition to having more vegan and gluten-free options from
Senator Bodie?
I mean, I feel like it's difficult to say we can speak on behalf of like,
Yeah.
like gluten-free person, you know, because you don't really want people kind of want to eat, but I think like adding more options without cutting them is like the right way to go rather than just saying like, oh, because that might be people who want to eat it.
Thank you, Asa Weber. I would also just like to add that this event is a ways away. I think it would be pretty fine to provisionally like add money if that's what like everyone wants to do, and then like continue this discussion with Free Sound later. Like if you're someone who cares a lot about this, which like I think it is important to care about it. Like if you're someone who cares a lot about this, talking to Free Sound more later. I just like don't know that without like doing research into our options in Grinnell right now. I feel like it's kind of hard to say what decision we should make right now. I think like I trust Free Sound to like make good decisions food wise. But like yeah, just maybe changing the budget and giving more time to do the research.
Thank you, Senator Mendel?
I just wanted to add on to what Senator Donovan said. Like, I agree. I think it's better to, and actually what Senator Cerny said earlier, I think if anything, it should be added because, like, taking away, especially like in this case, like the vegan or gluten-free options, although it might not be preferable in this case, at least they're still there because if we just add one vegan, like a tofu option, then that's more of a commodity that people are going to want, and at least there's still other things that they can choose from. It is not as people aren't scrambling, so they have variety.
Thank you, Salvatore?
3 things. First, if we try and keep the quantities the same, then we'll be at 3497.3. If we add, we'd be at 3550.25. Small difference in the larger scheme of things. Second, I'm okay with tabling this because I think we're more than 2 weeks away, so we'd still meet the budget deadline if we present it again next Sunday. Free Sound hours every Thursday, 8 to 9 p.m. That's like our office hours. More than welcome to have an extended conversation about this with concerned individuals. And then the third thing is, even if we provisionally pass this, there is the potential possibility that we might present a second budget because the Grinnellian has ordinarily always been centered around student music, and this year we've been endeavoring to expand that and make it more inclusive to student art in general. And so we've reached out to Art SEPC and other student artists who aren't necessarily musicians on campus. And so we might come to present a smaller budget for like art supplies or something, and we could add the result of whatever further discussion about food we have onto that budget. So things to think about.
Senator Donovan?
amend this and add $250 difference from last year to like gluten-free / vegan food, and then discuss it out, but then we don't have to like we don't have to table it, we just.
That is not for me to decide on, that's for the presenter of the budget to decide on.
To add $250.
Yes, if you would rather add $250 or table, it's up to you.
I think I would be more okay with adding up to $100. Just because that's a lot of food, and there is, I mean, yes, it's important to have options, but also it's important to realize that the population that eats gluten-free and vegan, if we just order $250 worth of food for them and they don't eat it, that might not, I mean, yeah, other students can eat those options too, but I don't want to sort of stretch that far. Hopefully $100 is reasonable. And then I'm also thinking in terms of if we do art supplies, we could have that $150 to cater to that interest.
So you go in.
How about just, once you get like all the options settled, put it on the budget and then reconvene, just so that you know exactly how much it would be? And just to make sure that we're not like estimating like we might be under.
President-elect Logan.
I support the spirit of what both the PSAs are talking about. I do not have the power to make any motions as a student at large, but if I were a senator, I would probably motion to table it and then ask this group to come back next week, having taken these considerations into consideration.
Thank you, Senator Nelson.
Yeah, motion to table it until next week.
Motion to table, seconded by Senator Goldhammer. All those in favor of tabling this budget to next week, please raise your hand if you are in favor. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, so that passes. We will table this budget until next week.
Quick comment, just a reminder, it's important that in the next week we make this decision, so please come to Freesound our 8 to 9 p.m. Talk to us about this, and I'm more than happy to figure it out, because it's important. If you can't make that time, email Freesound, and we can correspond. Thank you.
Thank you. Those times will also be in the mini minutes, so I encourage everyone to read them and remember and give your input. Is that the last ACE budget that was then included? Okay, thank you all for your engagement. We're now going to move on to item number 6, which is a discussion on SGA responses to petition regarding all campus events chair. And that discussion is led by
So we had a short discussion of the petition last meeting. So I think what I want our discussion is more of an explanation from the execs about how they responded to the petition. And also want to hear just a reflection on all that, and then also like student input on like yeah.
So I guess where to start? So Miles isn't here tonight. Miles was the person who was like, I think the like first layer, and then Khadijah got added in, and then I got added in like last. So of the executives, full disclosure, I'm probably the least knowledgeable. But pretty much our response started immediately with like working with administrators and like people who we like knew were sort of like decision makers in the particular areas. We had a meeting with Michael Sims. Pretty much what we got out of this, and like to jump to the productive point, is that this is a problem that's bigger than any individual person or any individual ACE chair. What his basic point, and Khadija, correct me if I'm wrong here, is that historically SGA has been like going back and forth between 1 and 2 ACE chairs. Every single time, 1 is not enough and 2 is too many, and so like we saw this last year that we reduced down to 1. What the current executives talked to Michael about and what we are hopefully implementing is larger scale changes and larger scale cabinet composition changes that will be addressing this in large part. That means that like the executives taking on a stronger role in overseeing day-to-day operations of individual cabinet members and checking in on those things so that these problems don't go, like these problems don't happen without us being aware of them. Because I think that was the biggest thing, was there being situations where there was a issue that arose and passed, and then we were notified of it afterwards, when there really is no actual recourse that can be done to resolve the problem and to make it right. So this will come in a wide variety of things. One of the biggest things will be hopefully a film coordinator, film chair, don't know what we'll be calling it, but to do both the like front work that ACE committee does on like deciding what films are, deciding like what the schedule will be, and then also the background work of actually going and finding the like getting the rights to the films and doing the like scheduling and like food orders, things like that. Additionally, we'll be hopefully like moving some things around to different people within different areas, and as much as I think one thing that I guess hasn't really been discussed in this like group of senators, but the Associate Director of Student Activities, also called the SAD, is like will be having a large role in all campus events. This was something that was like registered. This like switching between all campus events being 1 and 2 chairs concept was something that was realized with the Residential Learning Task Force, like I don't know, 5-6 years ago now. And this was one of the realizations that there are some like larger scale changes that need to be made to like how SGA functions at large to ensure that these things that affect student lives in like a massive way, but that SGA and oftentimes one individual person is completely overseeing, is simply not healthy for the student body at large, but also for individuals. I mean, it's like, we all realize this as student leaders, right? I mean, everyone needs to take like wellness breaks at point. And for there to be situations where if there is any job where it is impossible for a student to take a week off for whatever reason, and like that job needs to make major changes, right? If like there's one area of campus where one person is like completely in charge, if they're not able to do everything, then there will be like a complete collapse. So avoiding that is something that I think is like a larger scale change. I guess that's a lot of the discussion that's been happening. In like the short term, sorry I was late, I had a thing, but I mean Erica is a new ACE chair, I think, and for the finishing out the semester will be fantastic, particularly in her previous roles in like communication and organization, I think are going to be critical to finishing out the year and making sure that everything that is currently planned goes smoothly, and that anything else that needs to be planned is planned properly and also runs smoothly. Does that answer the original questions?
Further question from Solomon. Could you like speak to, or like tell me, are there any plans for like maybe setting up a way to like monitor like the efficiency or like the efficiency of like an ACE chairs, or not, just ACE chairs like in this situation, but like to monitor the way, like to monitor whether or not they're actually doing the job they were hired to do. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, the biggest thing is that, like, that will be the associate director for student activities. That person will be, I mean, it'll be their 40-hour-a-week job. Because I think the biggest thing is that, and I think many people also realize this, the executives are already working, I mean, like 35, 40-hour weeks every week, getting paid for half of that. And so we do try to do our best to oversee the individual things people are doing. We unfortunately don't have many like major systems to do that other than the reports that go to Senate. And so trying to make those things more systemic, right, to have things that are being like constant check-in. Same with like, there are like work reports for a number of hours, but it goes to like the treasurers, and like I know I have no way of accessing that. So there are some things that we're trying to find out ways to, I guess, streamline things that are pre-existing, because it seems like, and I guess Khadija has more to say on this, but like there are disparate places of information, and I don't know if there's anyone whatsoever who has access to all of them, and that's the way, that's what we need to do to be able to like effectively oversee all the people that we oversee.
One way that we did address the issue was having bi-weekly check-ins with the ACE coordinator, and I think that should be done throughout all the other positions, making sure that the things that they said that they were going to get done is getting done, and we have plans in place in order to ensure that the plans are moving forward. I think that's something to pass on to the next execs, making sure that they're in constant communication with the other people in the cabinet and making sure everything is going smoothly. And if not, like have plans in place to ensure things get figured out before reaching like a impasse where it's done.
Thank you. Senator Vega?
Yeah, so whether or not this fits into the discussion at hand, I think it's important. I think we should really focus on the administrative issues and the oriented issues that face the ACE chair rather than scapegoating it to a split position or a single position. In a SMB article from last month says about the ACE chair and the problems that it caused for student safety. Is that on the shrinking of the position from 2 people to 1, Mystic does not believe the role is too much for one person to handle. She served in one of the ACE co-chair positions both semesters last year and said she was definitely prepared to get to this position. So obviously there is some problems that face the ACE co-chair, and what was cited in the article was basically that it's more the problems with the ability and the new thing about having not having more than one event in the same place on one day. So let's try to keep it centralized with the things that we're looking at going forward.
Senator Aileen?
Hi, so Elizabeth and I spent a fair amount of time thinking and talking about this week with AC Welch and a few other people. And it seems that when it comes to an issue of accountability for individual cabinet members and cabinet members maybe not meeting their responsibilities as constitutionally mandated, there is already a robust existing system for handling this called the Judicial Review and Oversight Committee that could have been used productively to address this exact thing if they had been called in. I can pull up the relevant section of the Constitution, but there's really no change that needs to be made there. This is already a system that exists and that works, it just needs to be used. And we talked to Reese a little bit about that, and he's putting together a form. I'd also like to note that this is not, JROC is not for everything, and they're not for minor things. This is for large-scale, serious problems that are not being addressed by things that they should be addressed by. So I have a prepared statement that Reese has approved that I can send to Dylan that you can stick in your meeting minutes. I can read it out loud right now if we have time for that. Do we have time for that?
If you feel it necessary.
Sure. So cabinet members have office hours. There's been uncertainty about accountability in SGA recently. Cabinet members have office hours, and your senators have emails and are paid to represent your concerns, but the JROC committee is a resource if cabinet members are falling short of constitutionally mandated obligations, as they are responsible for, quote, reviewing and rendering decisions on the constitutionality of bylaw changes, actions by senators, cabinet members, and other student government and actions. Please keep in mind that JROC is not a complaint box. Don't use them for denied budget requests or missed emails or for anything small. But for big things where there is no response, where you've talked about it with a lot of people, where things seem to have undergone systemic breakdown, they are a resource that you can use to start a process for addressing that, and that probably should have been what was done with this thing.
President Elizabeth.
I have been curious about what has been done to kind of manage like there was an issue, right? You know, like there was an issue, like the actual issue, but I think that there were a lot of things that came out of the issue that like impacted how students view SGA. Like, be it, you know, a very prominent student group getting like a threatening email about their funding, or, you know, a large group of student workers who are predominantly students of color who, you know, haven't worked events and didn't really get an answer about how they were going to get paid. I'm wondering what's being done on that end, because I think one of the reasons that I would imagine that the discussion topic was brought tonight is that even if internally within, you know, the executive cabinet, like work was being done, students who we are supposed to answer to might not have been hearing about it, and might not be feeling very heard by SGA right now. And that's something that worries me as I look towards next year about, you know, how do we rectify that? How do we make students feel like when they're frustrated with us, like we're hearing them? And so I guess I'm just wondering if anyone can like speak to that, what the communication has been like to, you know, tell students like, we hear you, this is what we're doing, any of that kind of stuff.
I mean, specifically with ACE, one of the things that we've like talked about, I mean, it was actually in like interviews, was with Erica, was talking about like doing an introduction, similarly with like Ziala, that it's just like a full campus email, talking about here's the person, here's their experience, to like resolve ideas of, I mean, like SGA is made up of individuals, and trying to like resolve perceptions of like individuals versus positions. That's like, I guess, the very first step. But I think the biggest thing is there needs to be like consistency of SGA members as individuals, like acting in accordance with their roles. I think that's the only way to have SGA be like viewed as positively as possible. I do think like, you know, we're only strong as the weakest link, and also just I think the biggest thing with all of these, with all of like the larger scale changes that need to be made, I think one thing that's really, I've been thinking about a lot with this is with the Associate Director of Student Activities position and what that looks at in relation to this. I mean, because I do see it as like a resolution to many of these larger scale problems, but it's also a position that this body condemned, like formally condemned, and we had like a really awkward meeting with Sarah and Ben being like, here's a formal condemnation from us to you. And so it is sort of interesting, and I think that when it comes to making like larger scale changes, I think we need to be thinking about those things, because I'm sure, like I know for a fact admin is, and the things that they want to come in and give us, we don't really like. So I do think this is like a starting of a conversation of what is much larger conversations of like accountability and good practice that is about SGA at large.
I just wanted to share in relation to the SAD position, something really sad that made me really sad. And I read it this morning. It's an article from 2017 on Grinnell's, it's in the Huffington Post, if you want to look it up, we'll have post, Grinnell College will bring it up, on how Grinnell has dealt with sexual assault and the switch a few years ago to an affirmative consent policy. The portion specifically that I read that just made me really kind of emotional, honestly, was a quote from Opeyemi Awe, the president of student government at the time, and I'll just read it aloud. She said she doesn't feel like students are constrained by administration policies at all. She and others proudly noted the affirmative consent policy came at the request of students 3 years ago. Quote, I would say we have primary control. We very rarely have members of the administration stepping in and saying, you can't do this and you can't do this. So Grinnell is different in that way. And so I guess I share that more as like a call to action rather than anything else, because it's sad to think about how our relationship with the administration has changed in the past few years.
I guess going back to Regina's comment on communication with student body, I know I wrote this in proposal, but I suggested that maybe the execs might send an apology and explanation to an email form to the student body to explain what has been going on with the ACE chairs. And I'd also apologize to maybe CBS, student group, or the ACE workers for the fallback of what all this culminated into, and so that was just.
One thing that I think Miles been asking for a while that we still haven't gotten is the people who filled out the petition, the actual petition holders. I don't know if that was ever sent to him, but if it was, it wasn't sent to me. But that's something that I think we had been talking about reaching out to that set, I think. But these are also very good ideas. Yeah, I think either one of those.
I see we have a direct response. Omari.
I sent the petition to Miles, I sent a copy of it in an Excel sheet to him with the names and the complaints. So I honestly don't remember if I CC'd you and Khadijah on it, but I think I did. I did get that to Miles, the Wednesday before we came back, so over spring break.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess I think that sending something to everyone could be a really good moment also to just explain what happened, take ownership over the situation, bring a lot of new confidence and excitement for what Erica's going to be finishing off the semester with. I think that just being transparent and accountable with what's gone wrong, what's gone right, and how excited we are moving forward and how confident we feel in the leadership that's taking place could be a great way to also open up the conversation with students to ask questions if they need it and come and know we're open to having a conversation about what can be improved as well, even if students didn't sign the petition because students felt uncomfortable talking about it in that setting.
Senator Christian?
Yeah, not to I guess make the same beat a dead horse, make the same statement over again. But in outreach committee, we've been having focus groups this past week and this upcoming week as well. And this has been a thing that's come up multiple times about how the student body feels like they hear about something via other students and then it has to do with SGA and it's never followed up on by SGA. So I just would think that, yeah, I think not only does it seem like we in this room think it would be good, but also the students we've been talking to this past week would really like to see more transparency, but also that SGA is responding to what we all know is happening, and yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, that we've been talking about some focus groups, and something interesting that has been coming up a lot is that students want to see the agenda for Senate, beforehand, and I've been talking about what if we want to add something, or if we want senators to add something, and I think that it's important to acknowledge that senators hold the position I think they do to check cabinet and to kind of be those voices from the student body. Also, I know in regards to this communication about what was happening, I recommend the DOC, that's something that the DOC would do. There was also turnover in the DOC, and I was stepping into that role, so I guess it was difficult to kind of navigate how we were going to go about that. And if the request is to send out an email addressing this and apologizing for the issues that the students have dealt with regarding the ACE chair, I'm happy to do that and to draft that with the executives or anyone else on cabinet. I know that a few Senates ago, we talked about having a formal discussion surrounding this and just relations between SGA and the student body. Is that something that people would be interested in as well, or would the email suffice?
Before committee chair.
So just one point, the minutes and the agenda of every
should be next to your website after it's approved. But for this semester, we only have the 2 first minutes and agendas in the website. So, and the video as well. So that's something that I already told Kevin, but it hadn't been changed yet.
In respect to the website, I fully recognize the website is missing a lot of things and it is deeply confusing. This is a discussion that literally just came up within cabinet. We're planning on restructuring the website in a big way this summer. Right now, we're trying to decide if we should just like shut down the website for the rest of the semester because there's a lot of misinformation on there. That has not been decided yet. It's just something that has been like very briefly tossed around. But I would just like to put it out there that I for one fully recognize the website is not super reliable. And that's not Addie's fault. Addie did a great job. But it's just this website, it's hard to maintain because there's so many links and things just scattered throughout. So yeah, we just that's something in general to be done. But also Addie doing great. I don't want to talk to you guys.
Okay, so about the letter, could I ask that I want to stress the importance of this letter, especially as someone who's going to be president of ACSU next year. My cabinet is heavily first year, and from what they've seen this year, it's not good. I have first years who come to me crying because they don't know what's going on, and I wasn't really able to answer questions because I wasn't getting answers myself. So as a student leader, I would really like for the letter writers to understand how much I need this letter to come out for my cabinet because they do not trust any of us. And I know how hard SJ has been working on your PR, and I want them to trust you as much as I do because I like being here. But and another thing, can I add? I also really what Gracie was saying earlier about how we should stress the fact that we want to finish it off strong with Erica is because nobody the PR around ACES right now is not good at all, and I think it'd be really wrong to put her in a position that's tarnished because nobody trusts ACE, and now you can't have her in the face of something that's broken. You have to fix it first, please.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for stressing how important this is to you and to your student group. And I think that this could be applied to many other student groups on campus as well. In regards to the website, I just wanted to say I'm in the process of scheduling a meeting with Addie this week to get outreach committee kind of join tech committee and get the ball rolling on that stuff because I know there are lots of changes that need to be made to the website, and we want to have some sort of organization about that if we do plan on shutting it down in a way. And yeah, once again, I want to say a lot of the conversation here is centered around communication, transparency, and outreach. And I just want to say I really appreciate all the feedback, and I'm taking everything that everyone is very seriously.
I would just like to thank Siama for jumping right into this and also starting to work on the website, and it's something that we've been looking to this entire year. And thank you so much for, you've been doing a great job, so I'm really proud of you. And also about the writing the letter and really helping me with that. And I know it's really hard for people to jump into positions mid-semester, so I'm happy for Erica and Siama and to work with us and make sure everything goes smoothly.
I was gonna just mention, since we're a little bit under 22 minutes, 23 minutes left, technically, thinking about less talking about the past and thinking about the future and the methods, what we're gonna do in the future, and talking about how to fix it. Like Thomas said, and I think that letter is a really important thing. So just to kind of steer the conversation that way, you can kind of check.
You know, I have no institutional changes to present or anything, but like, I hope that you all, as representatives of students, can hear me, and I'm sure I speak for the other execs in the room, that like, we are, you know, taking as many lessons as we can from this and learning very seriously, prioritizing, you know, that close communication between, you know, us as our members, year-long goals, year-long planning, all of that work. I want students to feel like this is a place where we, where we hear them and where their concerns are important and where we're gonna make it happen. And so if anybody, like if you guys have constituents that are concerned, I hope that, I have full confidence that, you know, all of us in this room are gonna, you know, just hop back on the horse and like ride into a new, like turn things around. And I hope that you guys can instill that confidence in your constituents also, because I can only speak for myself, but I also have seen, you know, how this cabinet for next year is coming together. And everybody is really committed to making things work for students.
I would just like to add on to that really quickly, and this is something also like I want us to use this space, but we don't have a ton of time. And also this is, it's a difficult thing to work through on like what these things would look like better, especially because we don't want to make people's feelings hurt of like this is someone messed up or someone made a mistake and how this was handled. So also like if you, everyone in the room or everyone else wants to talk about this in an individual setting or just wants to like send through an email, like that's also a totally fine way to discuss how things can be better in the future.
Are there any further things to add to this discussion? Carol?
Also, I guess this isn't institutional either, but I feel like this issue did not start from the petition. I felt like this is an issue that started last semester, and so I guess my word to that is just like maybe making it more of a proactive reaction and not make it where an issue that a student, like a petition has to be brought up for it to then be seen as an issue. I feel like this issue has been noticed way before a petition was sent out.
Okay, with that being the final comment, we will now move on to agenda item number 7, which is a report from dining committee.
Hello, we are running out of time, so what I'm going to do is pretty fast and skip over some less important things. This document is available to you. Please ask me if you have any questions that I don't cover. There was a student initiative for fruit washing that dining has been workshopping pretty extensively. What we learned in committee is that despite the fact that the stickers have stickers on them, they are washed and then the stickers are installed after the fact. But dining does recognize that people might touch the fruit while they're in the basket, and sanitary concerns might be introduced that way. So they told us that if you want to make sure your fruit is clean, you can go to the beverage station and just stick it under the water faucet there and wash it. If there, yeah, that was their suggestion. If there are actual medical concerns and this could pose a threat to someone's life, then dining told us that people can, in a limited capacity, use the washing station, the double sink in the deli section. But only if health is a serious concern. Otherwise, please use the beverage station. Jeanette Moser has office hours. If you have concerns about dining, go to them. She is a lovely person. She would love to talk to you. Also, if you're wondering if lettuce being washed, because I was wondering if lettuce being washed, it is triple washed. So I'm glad to hear that. There was an initiative asking why the kidney beans taste terrible. They were being smashed in the bags. So dining is going to change plans to correct the smashing in the bags.
And we know that was kind of important just in the sense. Thank you, Lana. So we were just mentioning that because a lot of the times a fair amount of vegans, like that's a big source of protein and stuff like that.
Can we point?
We're gonna
I thought they said they changed providing. Sorry,
yeah.
Awkward to do this, but we're going to take questions at the end. Please just keep
Please.
it in mind.
So dining.
Point of information, we have a point of information.
They said they changed kidney being provided. I also put to the meeting.
Yes,
That
they
was
are
the
not.
only one they were changed.
they switched to cans. And dining has concerned that Meals to Go could end soon, the program. This is because ingredients were being taken out of the dining hall in bulk in the to-go boxes ahead of spring break, and this was very, very expensive for dining to support. They say that if this continues, they are not going to be able to continue the program. So please don't take raw ingredients out of D-Hall and to-go boxes, and tell your constituents to do the same. I'm a little concerned this is tied into a larger food security issue over spring break. Students taking raw ingredients out because they were worried about not being able to eat. But that's a larger conversation. That's the proposal that's being workshopped right now with relevant administrators. Please talk to me if you're interested in being involved in that. And in the meantime, tell your constituents not to bring raw ingredients out, or really anything bulk in the meal to-go boxes is there for meals specifically. The program is endangered, so be careful about that.
Can I just have a point of information? What does raw ingredients mean?
That means that means lots of peanut butter, lots of honey. You take out a lot of mushrooms, pour nuts in there, take out cereal, oatmeal. They were very, very hung up on the idea that the to-go boxes are for meals and for individual meals. That was their focus.
They it's basically the expensive stuff that, like, say if you were taking out like all the sunflower seeds in your to-go cup, and they're like, oh, that's supposed to be for a beverage, or if you like took out the entire jar of peanut butter and put it all into the to-go cup, it's not like, oh, you can't take out like, oh, like, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to fill your box of cereal because that's like relatively inexpensive, but if you're thinking like nut butters, honey, like if you're filling something like an entire cup with like jam, like other more expensive things, or if you're taking out like an entire pie in a to-go box, or like all of the cookies in like a to-go box, they're like, oh, if we think that you're supplying other events on campus with like food that you're taking from the D-Hall rather than using it for meals, that's what their issue is with, not like, oh, I took out raw broccoli and like other stuff. Like that's not the issue as much.
And if you want, we could clarify that. We have another meeting this week, so we can also clarify specifically if that's something that's of interest to you. And then also, as you probably saw, the student initiatives, a lot of them are always related to dining hall. So getting back to you on concerns about avocados and other things on the student initiative. So yeah. Questions? Did you say something?
I've heard a lot of questions about other student initiatives and students feeling like it's not getting done. So can there be like a report on updates about student initiatives in general and like what the process is like?
Yeah, we've been working on that, Amanda. I feel like it's been on the time. Yeah, we actually have documents. So would you want that for next week, Amanda?
Yeah, just to add to that, there were a lot of student initiatives. I don't know if you guys are aware, but both last semester and this semester, there were like between like 30 and 50, something like that.
It was like 58 submissions.
Yeah. So we absolutely want to keep you guys updated. But I would ask you to let your constituents know if they're asking about student initiatives. That we just there's just a lot to work through. We're doing our best, but it's a little.
Something just to keep in mind when we're talking about student initiatives that I'm looking forward to next year, and that I think is something we can start thinking about as we're going through the process of learning about what it takes to put these initiatives into play, is like, what are the committees that people are going to just make this stuff happen without having to do an initiative. And so really publicizing committees in the future is something that I know the next habits is super excited about, because like people can just come in the middle of the semester and be like, what's up, or whatever, and like we can solve things that way. So I think that's exciting too.
Yes, I told you.
Adding to that, making sure that all the student initiatives are getting distributed into the, I guess, committee/areas of, like, for example, cabinet members where they're working, where they can get this done quite easily, like making sure that they get headed off those student initiatives so they can work on them, and it kind of lightens the load for the committee.
Yes, you will.
So I don't think that Senate should be extended except for in extraordinary or unusual circumstances, but the services chair and conference chair haven't had a chance to
the minutes to Senate, seconded by Senator Nelson. All those in favor? Please raise your hands nice and high.
Can I get a quick point of information? Sorry.
What is word, do you feel it necessary?
It's necessary to my vote. Are you saying to end the time of student senate to 9:30? So going from 9 to 9:30?
From 9:10 to 9:40, but we don't have to use all that. We can-
Alright, just to add 30 minutes, yeah, that's what we're voting. So, once again, can everyone just raise their hands nice and high? Okay, all those opposed? All those abstaining? So that passes. We will now be adding 30 minutes to student senate, thus closing at 9:40 p.m. We will continue on with discussion. Motion to move to county reports. Dining committee, you all good? All right, seeing that that is done, you're done. Okay, we're moving on. Thank you. AC Welch.
Hey, sorry I've been disorganized today. I was out of town all weekend at a conference and I got back 20 minutes before Senate. I was not at the Friday Deans and Directors meeting, so if you want to know more about that, I'd suggest asking another cabinet member during your report. Nothing to say.
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the last part? I was
Nothing else.
Nothing to add? Okay,
Yeah.
cool, thank you, sorry. My bad, I was like, what? Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, we can move on to DOC Gumajello's report.
Sticky lots are here, they, come get those. There was slow turnout at the focus groups this week, which is kind of upsetting, just because of the payment thing, we get people to come, so I'm thinking about opening it up. People, maybe if senators wanna like add that in minutes and like have people meet if they want to attend. Also, there was another incident involving, white students saying the N-word, and and that's like, I think that makes 4 this year, 4 or 5. So if you want to come talk to me about that, in the office hours, and I'll be getting more about that.
Point of whatever, stepping outside of this, I think that makes 4 documented incidents of white students or non-black students saying the N-word. Thank you for that. Because it's a
Also, it wasn't a white student. It was a,
For the clarification, do we have any?
but it wasn't a black student.
Thank you. Contra Christensen?
Can you provide any more details about what happened? I'm sorry, I just.
No, not really.
Okay.
He was brought up at like the very end of the meeting with the deans and directors last Friday, and we ran out of time to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
I think it will be added for the next one.
Could you say something?
I can say briefly like what happened. So a student of color, like a black student was in the gym room, little gym locker room, that's shared by men in the Bear. And there was a song that was playing, and my black student said the N-word while singing the song. And then when the black student approached the person who said the word, they then said it again in front of the black student. And so,
So yes, if you have thoughts, come to my office hours. Thank you.
So, and it's just okay, because I heard about this, like, just from the student body side. The interesting thing I've heard is that it's talking about how, I don't know, yeah, sorry, I don't want to like say things I want to say.
Yeah, this is something that we were discussing as well.
Okay, so, now I can say it, yeah, I'm gonna say it. So I know that something that's like discussed on my end was, teaching students about like American culture, like being like educating and welcoming, and explaining what words can and cannot be said, or like are not accepted, or not like, you know what I mean? I want to, can you?
Yeah, so this is a conversation that I started having when we were talking about the American context, just because like not a lot of people understand about like racial, I guess, norms in the United States, if I'm like explaining it properly. So this is something that we started talking about, and that we're gonna have further discussions with Karen Edwards to have some sort of like education on that within IPOP, because the student was an international student. Yeah. And so if anyone has thoughts or wants to talk to me about it, please message me.
Coach Susan?
I think that that's a great idea of introducing like American phrases to international students. However, I want to caution against saying that that was the sole cause of what happened, because from what I'm hearing is that, you know, the student said it once and then when confronted said it again, and to me that doesn't seem like a mistake.
Yeah, no, I like to agree with you, but also I've had a lot of conversations, because I have a lot of international student friends, and they told me, like, when they got here, like, they didn't really understand I guess, the sensitivity of, like, racial relations in this country, and, like, it's very different, I guess, in their country, of course, and so I guess giving that little education, I think is important, and, like, some people were asking me, or that who were international students, I think, so providing them that resource is another step that they can feel, I guess, comfortable / like learn more.
Senator Peter Santa?
Yeah, I'll also say that like people outside of Grinnell who are also domestic students come from places where maybe saying the N-word is like accepted even by people who are black, and they're around people who are non-black. So I don't think it should just be limited to international students if it was going to be educated. Also, I'd like to limit discussion for like 5 minutes.
A motion to limit this cabinet report to
Yeah, this
5 minutes?
this cabinet report, yeah.
A motion to limit this cabinet report to 5 minutes, seconded by Senator Nieto. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? That math does not add up. Let's do it one more time. You all must raise your hand for one of these.
Queen Cody?
Yes.
Is this to limit, like,
To limit
speaking
this-
in the cabinet?
To limit this cabinet report
Just
to
Just,
5
okay,
minutes.
gotcha.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? All those abstaining once again, I'm sorry. Okay, so that was flat even, but it was not all in favor, so it doesn't, like, it wasn't enough in favor, so it doesn't pass. Okay? Any, or you guys say Tom move?
To address Carlos's point, this is also something that we talked about in the Deans and Directors meeting, especially in terms of for that they're really heavily advocating, and it would kind of like touch, I guess, all first years, which I think is important. So I'm going to be in meetings with Nore, and we're going to talk about like how to talk to faculty, because they have a vote coming up in 2 weeks, and they'll be voting whether or not to implement the first year experience course. And so I'm going to try to use with her in order to address this and really figure out the best way to talk to faculty about this issue.
I also think it might be possible to talk to, I guess Jordan Brooks is leaving,
Jordan Brooks is gone.
Yep. Okay, well, intercultural affairs, because they do a community values session during NSO in Harris that talks about like diversity on campus and international student population, lots of things. And I think it would be not that difficult probably to add in at least like a small thing. Because it is definitely true that depending on where in the country and where in the world you come from, the norms about using certain words, and this extends I think past the N-word, but the N-word specifically, like when singing a song versus when speaking and things like that, it's just different across the country, and depending on where you come from and what your background is. So maybe.
I do agree that I think a conversation needs to be had, and like they definitely don't think about like the difference in like racial tensions and things like that when like you're during IPOP, but as is all like kind of pre-orientation programs that are pretty intense with information as it is, and I know a lot of people like might not show up or like might not pay attention, and kind of like finding a way to still get the message across without it having to be in like such a full like intense setting in the same way, like sitting in that hall in Harris, like probably can't remember everything you learned, and I feel like it's more important to like also not just get first years as they're coming in, but also like educate people, because IPOP is optional. And so it's not like you get everyone through that like wave, and so maybe like having like sessions where you can like get people to learn like what it actually means like within this country is like important. And like having it in community values would be good, but maybe like having other follow-up events to like, I don't know, say if you could like do it within sports teams as like just one way as well, and like I don't know if that could like branch out further on having CAs cover it as like a discussion topic.
Coach Jim Christensen?
You know, I'm all for having more, you know, like facilitated conversations, but I think one of the best ways to address this is to just call out your friends who are doing it, like regardless of whether or not they're doing it on purpose, like, you know, especially if you're a white person, you have a responsibility to tell them that that's, and you can do it politely. You don't have to be like, oh, you're an awful person for using this, but like, we have to be responsible for changing this behavior like on our campus, and that's really what's gonna affect things.
Senator Golden?
I don't know.
Okay, Bob Murphy, and then Viva Lechwell.
Two things. One, I don't know if this is already mentioned, but if you all remember like the online tests you had to take before you came here, like the online workshops on like drugs and alcohol, they're adding one of those on diversity and inclusion, which I think is a small but positive step, something that is not optional. Additionally, this is in my report later, but the first year experience course is literally this. It's all first years, like the concept is all first years required to essentially do a NSO follow-up, but with more in-depth and with more like individualized, more critically analyzed approaches to both health and wellness and diversity and inclusion are like the two prongs of the first year experience course. Faculty are going to be voting on this in like 2 weeks, so seriously, tell your professors if you think that this is something that should be happening, tell your professors, because they are going to be making that decision very soon.
That was what I was going to say, and I think that the first year experience course is also something that's going to be really essential for us to all be clued into next year as it's happening, and like taking track of like what are the things that students are learning and what are the things that still need to be either filled in that class or that we need to take on ourselves. Yeah. It's exciting.
Senator Jones?
So how is that course being, would it be implemented? Is it like a 4-credit course or is it something elsewhere that people take?
Eva Murphy?
There are going to be 3 proposals going to, 3 options going to the faculty to vote on. There are 2 that are non-credit bearing, non-required. The one that is it'll be like a Monday night, every other Monday night for I think 2 hours for like a half credit. That way it's something that it does add into it is part of a student's like GPA. It'll be pass fail, or like pass D fail, being that if you like miss 1 class of the like 6 in total sessions, then you'll get a D. If you miss 2, you fail. That way it's something that like you could feasibly fail, and it's not like a graduation requirement, but there is like some minor effect on the GPA so that people are not encouraged to just completely ignore it. But I mean, I think it admittedly doesn't really have that strong of teeth.
Is, like, I remember in one of our meetings, we were talking about a required one.
That's that.
But like for all first years? Like,
yeah, it's, I guess, if it's all right, it'll be broken up in like how it's actually done. It'll be tutorials broken. I think the concept is tutorials will be matched into like 2 tutorials. So there will be like 2 tutorial cohorts, if that makes sense, that will be done for this as just like background organizationally. But yeah, the idea is, the hope is to have all first years required to do this.
I'm going to ask if you look at discussion of first year experience until Wiley's, I'm so sorry, VPOM Murphy's cap report.
Motion to limit discussion about first year experience to Eva Murphy's cabinet report, seconded by Senator Christian. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? All those abstaining?
And the math once again didn't add up, but we're going to let it slide because that was a majority. So that is going to be tabled until we get to a cabinet report that directly addresses it. So are there any further things to be discussed on DOC Gubijala's report? Seeing none, we are now going to move on to Treasurer Urbani, who's not here, so we're going to go to A.T. Weber.
I have nothing to add to my report. Treasurer Urbani just wanted me to let you guys know that like he has not been doing super hot recently, so nothing really happened this week. I took care of like a lot of his responsibilities, so like everything's good, but he isn't feeling well, so he will probably not. He wasn't really around much this week, and probably will not be around much this upcoming week. That by no fault of his own. So if you have any questions, direct them to me. He will get stressed. He feels like he isn't serving well enough, and like that's the last thing I want. He just needs to recover. So anything that you want to talk to Quinn about, I can cover for now.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we can move on to VPOM Murphy's report.
The only thing I don't have on here is hiring. That was obviously a big part of the week, but I just didn't put it on my report. Questions?
Senator Croninger?
So the question about Dean Latham, could you speak a little bit more to like that about, I know like he likes the idea of like the young loan trustee, but speak more to that. And then also another student initiative was like having a student trustee. So like what is his opinion on that? Yes.
So for one, just to be clear, Dean Latham has absolutely no say in these things. It was just something I brought up with him. The student trustee has been, I think, a initiative for like the last 3-4 semesters, probably more. So we've talked about that before. Generally, the approach that I hear from most administration and trustees are the biggest people who it actually matters from is that they don't want a student trustee because of, or a voting student member on the board of trustees because of potential conflicts of interest. Understandably so, the trustees can make decisions about individual students, and like they at the end of the year like approve a list of like everyone like graduating, things like that that are kind of like it's a formality, but that's their reason, is that there would be potential conflicts. The young alumni trustee, basically Dean Latham's commentary was that he supports that idea more so, and he gave some advice on how to pitch this to the actual board of trustees, who would be the people who make the decision. Namely that this idea could very well work as an ex officio concept that right now, like the president of the Alumni Foundation is an ex officio voting member of the board of trustees. There are also class agents. So potentially, an idea was using existing structures, the class agent, and the corporate bylaws that the board of trustees has regarding ex officio voting members, combining those two things so that a class agent, somewhere between the last, say, 3 to 5, 10 years, would be able to serve as a voting member on the board of trustees. But it would need to be voted on by the board of trustees. And so the actual layout of how that will probably go is writing a letter to the chair of the board of trustees, Patricia Finkelman, and then, and also she's, I think, stepping down in the next one in a couple of weeks, and there will be a new person, so potentially talking to them and trying to convince them that this is a good idea. Dean Latham thought they may be convinced that it seems like the biggest thing that was stopping the student trustee idea was the conflict of interest. And so this bypasses that.
Yes, I'm curious about the sidewalk running
Yeah.
from the JRC to Harris, because I see it on your report now, but it's already happening, and I don't know, how many students knew about that before it was done, and why did that happen?
Honestly, DSA didn't even know. They were all, the information on this is extremely minimal. We're all feeling really uninformed, DSA too. And so one of the big things we talked about on Friday was about improving that communication, namely just making sure that we are communicating more with FM. I guess the thing was, this was something this pathway has been a concept for a long time. The reason why they suddenly decided to pull the trigger on it now, from what DSA understood asking about it after it had already been started, was that this summer there is going to be a massive project that is going to be shutting down Park Street between 6th and 8th, or at least the sidewalk that is going to be running there. This is what DSA told us. They didn't have much details. But in order to make it so that that doesn't have to happen during the school year, they're doing this during the school year instead. But yeah, information, we were not told about this in advance. It was even Michael Sims was talking about how there were fences put up in incorrect places that were then had to be taken down because the contractors just put them up. But yeah, I think that we're looking for more information, and as soon as we're getting it, we're going to be making sure that students are getting that, because honestly it's unacceptable that everyone's path to classes and to activities just got completely changed for the 3rd time this year, and nobody's told how or when or why.
Just a reminder, we have 15 minutes left in Senate. Was it 9:40 that we ended?
Yeah.
Sorry, 20 minutes left in Senate. I'm seeing that the motion to lengthen the time was made so that we could fit in all the cabinet reports. I just wanted everyone to be conscious of this. Senator Zernig and Senator Grinnell.
I was just gonna ask if you think it's a good idea, the pathway itself, because it says on here something about accessibility to loaded docks, so I'd love if you could talk about it, because to me it seems like a bad idea, and the feedback that I've gotten is that it's annoying and cuts up one big field into two. And then secondly, I have harm reduction concerns, which probably, I guess I should just go to Jen, but it cuts off, the way the fencing is right now, cuts off the east access to Harris, which means that you have drunk people trying to jump fences and falling on their faces and getting hurt and things like that on Saturday night, so it's a bad recipe.
Yeah, the path, personally, my opinion on the new path is that I don't like it either, but I also agree that the existing path was dangerous and inaccessible. Trucks are in there different random times of the day, and they just block the path. And so it just makes it so that the only existing path is frequently blocked. But I think that there are more nuanced solutions that could have been made. I think that this shows the importance of why students should be brought in on these discussions. Because, I mean, like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'm sure with like a group here, those decisions or those ideas could be made much better.
Thank you, Senator Rita. To second Senator Zerming's point, I was sober and working that Friday, and I had trouble getting in. I had to go over and fence to get to work on time, so I don't imagine what would happen if I was not to get in and go to the bar. Second of all, I just want to know who gave the okay for the construction, and generally, whose initiative was this to start it in the first place?
So to the first thing, I actually haven't been to Harris since this all started, so just out of curiosity, is this something that would be easily resolvable with proper signage, or is this a larger problem? Okay. And then second of all, facilities management, Rick Whitney is in charge. I don't know where this idea came from. It may have been some task force or something at some point, but I've gotten no information about it, and it just sort of happened. I imagine there's it's like from something, but I don't know.
I'd just like to add that the path to the bed to the JRC had been roped off earlier in the week, so it was completely wheelchair inaccessible. And someone in one of my classes is in a wheelchair at the moment, and literally someone had to go get their car. She had to get in the car and drive around, and me carry the wheelchair across the field just in order for her to be able to get to the JLC from the bear. And that shouldn't be a thing that we have to do on campus. And the fact that it's so inaccessible and then making it worse, and not notifying anyone or emailing you can't get anywhere. She's really struggling with it. And yeah, I think there needs to be something sent out by FM at least to notify students of things like this are going to happen.
So apparently this has been something in the books for a long time, for over 5 years, and it was moved up because of some construction scheduling. And secondly, if you guys could email me those areas that you guys are talking about, I would set up a meeting with Rick and we get that figured out ASAP. So.
I'm not going to motion only for the Senate anymore, but I think we should really get to contracted services reports too. It's been over a month, I think, at least a month, yeah. More.
I agree. Let's go right on to it. Ms. Cabinet report, are you comfortable with it closing?
Yes.
All right. President Becker is absent. DB is home. President-elect Logan?
I heard Eric White resigned. Do you know what? Yeah.
I saw him on Friday.
Yeah,
it's last day.
Well, I know that he had
Oh.
a family meeting, and he got to town.
I heard that he was.
Okay. Can one person answer this? If not, let's talk about it outside of session.
Yeah, I just have a question. So I know that apparently he resigned, his last day was Friday. I assume you guys might not know anything about it because it's super sudden, but I would love if you guys could ask about it and let us know because I loved him. He was really cool.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing else to add? Does anyone have any further questions? Seeing none, we can now move on to Mr. Richardson.
I'm trying to carrot, sorry. Bad timing. Okay, so this past weekend, we had DJ Coochie Fruit and La Spacer here. It was really fun, although I'm kind of disappointed at the turnout. For lunch, it was only Tucker and I, which was fine because it was really great to talk to them. They're some really, really amazing people, but I really wish more people had been able to be there to also listen to them. La Spacer was one of the pioneering queer DJs of house music in Chicago, and just has a ton of history and important knowledge about that. And the concert was really fun. It was they played just so many bops, and there was also not a lot of turnout there, and I understand that there were a lot of events going on that night, but I do just want to remind people that it is more difficult to bring minority artists to campus, and we should really try and take advantage of those opportunities. I tried my best to schedule it so that people could at least come by for like a little bit before disco or not disco, before carnival or Frank or whatever. But other than that, it's fine. We have another concert this Saturday, like I said. Also gonna be a lot of fun. Oh, our green room has a carpet and it has walls and it looks like a real room. I'm so excited. We're gonna start decorating that and making it into a proper space, which is really exciting. We've also been talking as a committee about collaborating more with Free Sound and Tiny Dorm, and just being able to support each other more. And then also how we want to go, or how the incoming concert chairs want to go about collecting student input on what bands we bring. So if anybody has any suggestions or ideas in terms of that, please feel free to email concerts. And that is all.
Senator Jones?
So is Gardner now a totally 100% mold-free accessible space?
In theory. I will say that the green room has a closet, and in that closet they put a lot of our old equipment that we didn't know what to do with, and they just decided to put it in there, and that room is still moldy. But as long as we keep that door closed, then you can't really notice it. I think Maine itself and a lot of the student spaces and student housing on campus are not necessarily mold-free, but that doesn't really seem to be a priority of the college or of FM at this moment in time.
Are there any further comments or questions? Mr. Christensen, do you have anything left to add?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator Tumwalt?
Blood drive was the most successful blood drive. And also civic engagement as well.
Mr. Condren?
I forgot what the civic engagement is.
4 p.m. Thursday, KRC 275. I'll also send out an email.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, before we close out, I just would like to say something very quickly because we're all tired. But I encourage you all, please make Senate easier to preside over by abiding by the rules that we have for a very direct reason. I'm not trying to be a hard ass, it literally has to do with accessibility. Please do not wave during Senate, I see you, please do not speak over other people. Just literally listen to the rules that are in your job requirements in the same way that I have to. It makes it really stressful and very unpleasant doing this job when people don't listen to the job requirements. So please do that. I won't be here next weekend because my dad is having surgery, so I'm going home. But I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you for your engagement.